Meghan is just still that desperate starlet trying to cling on to any bit of fame and fortune that she can get her hands on, despite climbing up the pole, the highest that anybody could ever go. She slid straight back down to where she was before she even met Harry.
They're now pulling in completely different directions, not just in terms of their public comments, not just in terms of their private turmoil, but in terms of their careers as well. A seismic moment in the past 48 hours as desperate Meghan Markle reveals she is returning to acting, playing herself in a Hollywood movie, a Hollywood career return that she said she would never even countenance. At the same time, Prince Harry signaling that a UK return is very much on the agenda. According to Taz, royal YouTube sensation with me now. Tash, this is just astonishing, isn't it? Because we saw Harry's very public takedown of Meghan on the podcast last week, scolding her in front of the world for daring to post their children on social media. This week, he can't even say that America is his forever home. Now, if America isn't his forever home, he's making it very clear that this is not a forever relationship. Then Meghan's return to acting is a total 180. So what is going on here, Tash?
Well, I think Meghan returning to acting is she's finally officially completed the full circle. We've got her Tig blog, which is now obviously as ever that has come back. Obviously, she's selling a few more products now, but her Instagram, her return to Instagram, and now she's gone back to acting. It's just a matter of time before she'll be begging for her deal back on Deal or No Deal. She'll need to start carrying suitcases again, because I think everything she's thrown at the wall has failed to stick. And I think that this is just another way for her to get a quick cash injection. It's obvious that everything is just not going the way that they planned. So I'm not surprised that Meghan has eventually gone back to make an appearance. But it was the post about she's had so many offers, Dan, so many offers, and she just needed to pick the one that was right for her, where she's going to play herself as a cameo. Right. Okay. We're meant to believe that she's got plenty of offers coming in from Hollywood, and it's not a return to Hollywood. She was number 6 on the call sheet on a relatively unknown TV show that was a US TV show, and they found it to be cheaper to make it in Canada. So there is no return to Hollywood. Hollywood never wanted her before. They're certainly not going to want her now. She's definitely over the hill by Hollywood standards by quite a large mile now.
But Tash, what was very interesting to me is this new reporting from Rob Shooter overnight, who, remember, is tapped into both Hollywood but was also a former royal courtier, who says that it's actually the interview with Harry rather than Meghan's return to acting which is causing the most concern in royal circles. In fact, he says that there's panic at Buckingham Palace. He writes, one single word has royal aides sweating through their tailored jackets. In a casual interview, Prince Harry stated he currently lives in the United States, and palace insiders tell Shooter Scoop that phrasing was neither accidental nor innocent. He could have said, I live in America, one former courtier hissed. Currently implies the situation is temporary. The remark arrives as Harry revealed he will not pursue US citizenship, leaving watchers stunned after years in Montecito with American-born children. Behind palace walls, aides report King Charles's camp has quietly reopened lines of communication during the monarch's health challenge, thawing an ice wall once thought permanent. But another factor looms larger, fears that Prince William may strip or restrict titles once he formally asserts more authority. Harry sees which way the wind is blowing, warns one senior insider. The Sussexes are recalculating. Even Meghan is said to be monitoring reaction carefully. A veteran advisor summarizes the mood: when a Sussex shifts language, it's strategy, not slip. But see, my argument here, Tash, is that there are two different strategies going on. There's a Meghan strategy and there's a Harry strategy, because Meghan's strategy is all about finding desperately a way to prove that Hollywood has not failed her, to prove that Hollywood has not soured on her, despite all of the terrible headlines that we've seen even this week. And this desperate cameo in a crappy movie is one way of doing that. Harry, whose language used to be all about a permanency to his relocation to the US, has done a total 180. Missing the UK, talking about banter. Oh, it's just for now. I'm not going to apply for US citizenship. So I think there is now a divided strategy between these two. And that's when things get really messy for the royal family, too.
I mean, Harry was never going to take US citizenship because of he would have to renounce his titles. He would then have to pay tax like a US citizen does. And we know that with Harry's special visa and no doubt with the sort of trust funds and all sorts of things he's got set up, that he finds a way to skirt around that, in my opinion. I believe this is why Harry does come over to the UK and has certain visits, because it's to do with the amount of time he has to spend in the UK for certain allowances. So I'm not shocked that he's not going to apply for US citizenship. As for he and Meghan, I don't think that those two have been salt and pepper for a very long time. Meghan is all about Meghan and her brand and wanting to become a billionaire, throwing everything she can at the wall. Meghan is just still that desperate starlet trying to cling on to any bit of fame and fortune that she can get her hands on, despite climbing up the pole, the highest that anybody could ever go. She slid straight back down to where she was before she even met Harry. Harry, however, I think is a bit more deluded, because I think that he is still believing somehow that he's in competition with his brother. He seems to be still believing that he's a working royal. We saw with his recent state from his spokesperson talking about, that he believes that he should be considered the same as his father and his brother still, and it's a swipe about security. But I don't think the palace have anything to worry about with either of them. There's no way the UK public would ever accept Harry back. He can't steamroll his way back into the public's affections after everything he's done, and he can gaslight people as much as he likes. But at the end of the day, we know that Harry has trashed the UK, implied that the UK is a racist country. He tried to damage relations between the royal family, the Queen's Commonwealth legacy across Commonwealth realms, allegations of racism. I mean, there's so many things that he's done. And the UK public, some may always forgive him simply because he's Diana's son. But I think the majority of people that support the monarchy will never forgive him for what he did to the Queen and Prince Philip, and now continuing these attacks on his father. It's just not going to work. So I don't think the palace have to sweat about anything really, no matter what he says. He's insignificant now.
100%. By the way, Meghan Markle's team most definitely leaked this story of the film Return to the Sun newspaper. There was so much behind this, Tash, because, and I really do think we've got to think about this, it wasn't just about knocking William off the front page with the Earthshot Prize, which obviously she did succeed in doing, but it was also about knocking Harry off the headlines too. This is the irony now. They are now competing against each other, Harry and Meghan.
Yeah, we saw it before. I mean, it was the Diana Awards last year. It wasn't just about knocking Prince William off when he was about to give a speech. That's when she launched American Riviera Orchard, if you remember that, Dan. That was a few ventures ago. But it was also Harry was making an appearance. I mean, admittedly, he did it over camera because I think he was skiing somewhere. But Meghan still decided to launch that on the Diana Awards, which is something, that obviously matters a lot to her husband, and that raised a lot of eyebrows then. Meghan has done paparazzi strolls when Harry is, giving speeches or doing his own thing. So there's always been that underlying tone of Meghan is in competition with her husband. But I don't think she even does it on purpose. I just think that she is a narcissist through and through, and any opportunity where she can get her name in the headlines, whether it be overshadowing her husband or trying to compete with the Princess of Wales or members of the royal family, she's going to do it. That's why everything with her always comes across so completely chaotic. There's no rhyme or reason to a lot of the things that she does. She doesn't follow through with anything. She's just on to the next new thing, whatever that can get her attention. And for her, this was a double win: the Earthshot Prize and then Harry trying to outdo his brother.
And of course, Tash, too, she needed to try and find a way to prove this damning Page 6 report as being untrue or old or dated, because I am told it was this report that really got to her this week. Hollywood has soured on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle from Page 6 in the New York Post. Now, remember, this is a newspaper, Tash, that her team has spent quite a lot of time, even though it's a Murdoch right-wing newspaper, they've done outreach, they've tried to get this newspaper on side. But again, the details contained in this expose were just so embarrassing. Hollywood source telling Page 6 that when it comes to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, there is not only no appetite left for them in LA, but they've also worn through any goodwill they once had. Another source tells us people are sick of them. The actors gotten stale. They're just hopeless in professional settings. Then there's detail, Tash, and colour, which is so mortifying. We're told Harry even allegedly showed up late to a Netflix meeting and then asked an executive for a cup of hot chocolate. Of course, that matches a very similar story that was once revealed to Vanity Fair in regards to Spotify. The source also saying of Meghan, she's convinced she's smarter than everyone and dismissive, with another source telling us that Markle is the one in the couple who controls everything. So this was yet another damning expose, Tash. Not in the horrible British media, the horrible British tabloid press that has it in for Meghan Markle, but rather the American publications, which actually have been pretty soft on her. So again, this announcement this week was to try and say, oh, look here, I'm not finished in Hollywood. But it's like, come on, there's a big difference, Tash, between turning up in a cringeworthy cameo in a Lily Collins film than a 8-figure Netflix deal, which you lost because you were so crap, and you literally have nothing being produced anywhere and have had nothing being produced anywhere for over a year.
No, it's just another failure to add to the ever-increasing list of failures. But one thing that is always certain when there is a report or, an expose or someone speaks out about Meghan and Harry being failures, there's always a clap back every single time. And yes, I believe that this did drop because of their clapback against the fact that Hollywood is done with them. But Hollywood was never really on their side anyway. They were a shiny new thing when obviously they trashed the royals and Oprah, and that opened a few doors for them in the beginning. They were getting these big deals where they could have, if they'd actually succeeded, become, billionaires if they actually had any talent, or any work ethic or drive. But as we know, they failed at being working royals. They failed at everything else that they touch. They expect everybody else to do everything for them, and then they just get to put their name to it, collect awards, and receive, a round of applause and have a red carpet event. And it doesn't work that way. No matter what you think of Hollywood, they, the actors and actresses and the people that are a success in the industry work extremely hard. They sacrifice an awful lot to be able to make it up that totem pole, as I said. And Meghan's never ever made it in Hollywood. She is literally back to getting a cameo, which is exactly what that was the height of her fame. She can put it on her CV that she was in Hollywood films, but she was in them for a couple of seconds, and a lot of them she didn't even have a talking part, maybe one line. This is just, it's not the flex that her PR team are trying to make it out to be. But as for that Page 6 report, no lies detected whatsoever.
No, totally accurate. But you're so right about the cameo thing, Tash. Like, does she think that in some way this sort of proves that she hasn't done a 180? It's like, well, I'm not going back to acting really because I'm playing myself. I find it so mortifying. I mean, there has been a school of thought for a long time that the only success Meghan is going to have is as an actress. But she's really muddied the water by making this a role where she plays herself?
I mean, Meghan's biggest success in the acting world was Suits, and she played the girlfriend of a main character. If you actually work it out, Meghan starred in the biggest success of her career across 7 seasons for 138 minutes of screen time. That's all she had, Dan. So, I mean, she hasn't even been successfully in a role on that TV show. I mean, we've got feature length films that are longer, and that is her only success. And many people had said that the reason why Meghan was good at playing Rachel Zane is because she pretty much played herself. People have spoken out that interviewed her for potential other roles, and they said she had an inability to play anybody other than herself. So this role, of course, will be perfect. It's just going to be interesting to see, is she playing herself as Meghan Markle, or is she going to play herself as a royal, as a duchess? Because I tell you what, that will backfire on her if she does try and cash in on her royal connections to make this cameo as well.
Indeed. Tash, I'm not won over at all by Prince Harry attempting to try and sort of get himself back into the good books of us Brits. Okay, like no, 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 no. Obviously, the mainstream media are buying into it, like LBC in the UK. That's the left-wing radio station saying Prince Harry urges Brits not to forget veterans once the uniform comes off in passionate Remembrance Day essay. But as the Royal News Network responded to that, says the man who abandoned his family, duty and country, you can't make this stuff up. And Prince and Princess of Wales's fan said, I kid you not, this is a real essay, appalling and full of all of the cliches that you would expect from someone who is disconnected from reality. Sorry, Harry, you stabbed your country in the back. Stephanie Sidley responded pretty simply saying, F-O, Harry, but then added, Harry wants to go back to the UK so bad, it's scary. He's on the verge of a mental breakdown. And this article, Tash, was quite extraordinary because the fact that he thinks he can just dip back into that cheeky chappy persona. Oh, I love Britain. I love the banter. It's like, are you kidding me? You called the over 50% of the country who voted to leave the European Union racist. We don't just forget that.
No, no. I mean, you can even just read through the headlines of Harry saying he doesn't want the public to forget veterans once they take the uniform off. The public don't forget veterans. And I actually translate that to he doesn't want the UK public to forget him.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of
I'm
people
a
are
veteran,
disgusted.
guys. I'm a veteran, so it excuses all of my previous
Yeah,
behaviour. Unfortunately, it doesn't, Tash. As
exactly.
we've seen with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, and I know we both agree on this, of course he shouldn't lose his Falkland War medals. That decision has
Yeah,
now been made, and I do believe that is the
thankfully.
right decision. However, it
Agreed.
also doesn't mean that you don't face scrutiny about your behaviour after you left the services.
Let's not forget that even high ranking officers in the army have called out Harry. They've called him out saying that he endangered the lives of soldiers that were still active out in some of these war zones after he declared his kill count. There have been other people that have served with him that have literally gone to the newspapers saying, Harry, shut up, stop complaining, stop moaning. I mean, in Spare, I mean, he probably got people in trouble where he admitted that he used to get special privileges to get out of drug testing, all sorts of things. He used military weapons and to try and take out his father on a whim because what he was having a stroke. I mean, he has become an embarrassment to the army. And Harry, as far as I'm concerned, went against the oaths. He is meant to respect the Queen, her heirs. Harry completely betrayed Queen Elizabeth. He's betrayed King Charles and he's betrayed the future king. Harry could be in the Guinness World Book of Records for basically betraying 3 monarchs. Because once the king's gone, Prince William is king, Harry has betrayed all 3 of them. And that's pretty impressive. That's an accolade he's definitely deserving of. But yes, he's using veterans. He uses this time of year every single year to try and upstage anything that Prince William is doing, and just other members of the royal family. He uses it to appear alongside others, working members of the royal family, the actual working members of the royal family, so people think that Harry is still a working member. He's just in the USA or he's in Canada. He is not a working member of the royal family. He doesn't represent the UK. He doesn't represent the crown. He doesn't represent anybody but himself. And he is there purely to promote himself. And he uses veterans and charities to do so.
He totally does, and it's dark. We've also seen Meghan this week try and pretend that was never isn't already all over. So first there was the Oprah endorsement, and Tash, loads of people tell me, I mean, I'm not really connected to all of this stuff, but loads of people tell me that this Oprah endorsement would have been a big thing maybe a decade ago, but people
Yeah.
don't really turn to Oprah for these type of gift guides anymore. She's sort of lost that unique cachet.
Yeah, she has. Oprah's credibility went down long time ago. I mean, lots of people turned against her. It's a lot of negative stories, and her with her associations to certain people. I mean, there was the fundraiser over what happens in Hawaii, and there's lots of reasons why people do not want to listen to these big A-listers, these billionaires that preach from their ivory towers to people, and yet they don't treat other people very, very nicely. And yes, I mean, Oprah recommending Meghan's jams, it's not going to mean anything to anyone. All it does for me when I saw that, she's advertising 3 jams to go at once. She's just trying to clear stock desperately.
And we also saw the future of social media influencing this week, Tash, from Meghan, because no one's ever put up short recipes online, of course.
Oh, don't.
Meghan is, the first to do it. And now that With Love Meghan is over, the great thing is we're still going to get so much more of Meghan looking like so serene and virginal white with the most insane, unnatural, inauthentic lighting, soft lighting you have ever seen. But perhaps the most crazy thing, Tash, is she genuinely thinks we need a 53-second video to tell us effectively how to put a tea bag in some boiling water. Watch this.
Okay, so for holidays, I love having a really cozy, warm beverage that everyone can enjoy. And you could do teas, but you could also do a hot toddy or a spiced cider. I like to make a big pot for everyone. It's so easy. All you do, boil some water, enough for 8 servings, 10 servings. Once it's at a boil, turn it down, take the entire contents, and let it steep in the pot. Now, what happens when you do this? When people come into your house, they go, "It smells so good. What is that?" And go, "Oh my gosh, let me offer you a drink." And then I would just add a couple details here to just embolden the flavor a bit. Honey adds a really special note. Cinnamon stick is so nice in there as well. You smell the cinnamon, you smell that lemongrass. You could also add a spirit of choice to make it a little bit more grown up, but just on its own, it's the most soothing, especially in cold weather.
Tash, she's really bad at this, right?
It's just her acting, Dan. I just, the fact that she's got this cameo part, it's like, it just smells so nice. People just come in and go, what is that? Oh, that's your boiled water I've just made. That's a very expensive herbal tea bag that I've just made for you. And remember, Meghan doesn't serve people. She opens the door barefoot wearing an apron and tells people to go serve themselves. I can imagine that the guests will just be lining up for the holiday season for Christmas outside their home in Montecito. No wonder Harry was sitting there alone watching that ball game and he didn't have any guy friends that are around there if this is the sort of things that Meghan is going to be serving. Yummy.
I know. I mean, I just think Oprah has lost all of her credibility for genuinely suggesting, Tash, that her audience, the audience who she still has, and remember that's a lot of working class Americans who don't necessarily have money to waste, Tash, and she is genuinely telling them to spend $63 on 3 jars of shitty jam, shitty marmalade, packaged shittily. It's like, Oprah, nah. Like, seriously, no. I mean, I was never going to forgive Oprah.
It's not even
for
good
the
quality.
interview
It's not
anyway,
even
but-
good.
No, it's
not
terrible
even good-
quality.
Yeah.
It doesn't taste any good either. Okay. Well, we're going to move over to Substack now. We have much more from Tash. I have to say, Tash is a little bit thirsty this week, and it's certainly not for Meghan Markle's hot toddy, but rather the transformation of a certain Prince William in Brazil, and we're going to discuss how that has really annoyed Harry.
According to palace insiders, the former Duke and Duchess of York are said to be living largely separate lives within their 30-room home at the Royal Lodge in Windsor. Reports suggested that the pair occupy opposite ends of the residence and only meet during shared mealtimes, where discussions often revolve around their uncertain futures. Sources described how the Duke, aged 65, rarely leaves the house, instead spending long hours pacing the corridors and talking to himself in frustration. Meanwhile, the Duchess, Sarah Ferguson, aged 66, reportedly spends her evenings in a private bar on the property known as the Dog House. There, she is said to confide in friends and staff while seeking advice about what lies ahead. Those close to the couple claim that, following the removal of Prince Andrew's royal titles by his brother, King Charles, both he and Sarah Ferguson have faced intense personal and emotional strain. The pair are believed to have shared concerns for their safety, particularly given the Duke's well-documented connection to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Friends of the Duchess revealed that she has become increasingly anxious about her security and that of her daughters Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. She has reportedly asked members of her staff to remain at the lodge into the evening to keep her company. The same sources said that the Duchess fears she or her former husband could become potential targets after losing the royal security that once came with residence on the Windsor estate. They added that, while such fears might seem exaggerated, Ferguson has been deeply unsettled by recent events and is said to be massively on edge. Despite their separate lives, the Duke and Duchess still share meals together, during which they talk about their next steps. The Duchess is reportedly uncertain about where she will live once she moves out of the Royal Lodge, which was once the beloved home of Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, from 1952 until her death in 2002. Sources claim that Prince Andrew plans to relocate to the King's Sandringham estate in Norfolk. However, it was reported that there would be little there for Sarah Ferguson, making it unlikely she would spend significant time there. Her fear over personal safety has also made any move abroad improbable. The only constant, insiders said, has been their shared desire to protect their daughters from the fallout of recent scandals. Both Beatrice and Eugenie are described as extremely worried about their mother's well-being and have been maintaining regular contact with her. The Duchess has also been leaning on her older sister Jane, who recently travelled from Australia to provide emotional support. Friends say that Ferguson feels unfairly caught up in the controversy surrounding her ex-husband and believes she has been treated harshly, despite seeing herself as blameless. One issue, also weighing on her mind, involves Sandy and Muick, the two corgis once owned by the late Queen Elizabeth II. The former royal couple inherited the dogs following the monarch's passing. Sources confirm that the animals will remain within the family, alternating between the Duke and Duchess, so that they are never separated. Further complicating matters, Prince Andrew recently received a letter from members of the United States Congress requesting that he appear before them to address his past friendship with Epstein. This development came only a week after he was stripped of his royal titles. Reports also noted that Andrew has faced renewed public scrutiny following the release of a posthumous memoir by Virginia Giuffre, his former accuser, who tragically took her own life in Australia in April at the age of 41. In the book, she reiterated claims against the Duke. Adding to the controversy, it was revealed that in earlier correspondence, Prince Andrew had written to Epstein saying that they were in this together, contradicting his earlier claim that he had cut all ties with the disgraced financier. Meanwhile, Sarah Ferguson was previously discovered to have sent an apologetic letter to Epstein in 2011, calling him a supreme friend and expressing regret for publicly labelling him a paedophile. Palace insiders suggested that while few people feel sympathy for Prince Andrew, both King Charles and Prince William have expressed concern about his state of mind. Sarah Ferguson's friends, however, have shown deep compassion for her, saying she has become increasingly paranoid and emotionally burdened. Those close to her believe the Duchess is struggling with feelings of isolation and fear over her future security. However, some optimistic voices suggest that one of her well-connected friends may eventually offer her a new place to live and a fresh start. In the midst of this turbulence, bookmakers have humorously speculated about the disgraced Duke's possible appearance on British reality television. Odds were listed at 80-1 for him to join Celebrity Traitors, 66-1 for I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and 100-1 for Big Brother. Interestingly, betting agencies place far higher odds on Sarah Ferguson making a television appearance herself, with 50-1 for Celebrity Traitors, 33-1 for I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and 66-1 for Big Brother. Representatives for Sarah Ferguson declined to comment on the matter. However, analysts noted that if the Duchess were ever to appear on one of these major shows, it could easily become one of the most watched moments in British television history. As the former Duke and Duchess of York continue to navigate uncertain futures, it seems their once shared royal life has now given way to quiet reflection, emotional turbulence, and a search for personal redemption, both within and beyond the gates of Windsor.